Hey gang, Kevin here, Life22, and we're having a beautiful morning. Um, Testing out the microphone seemed a bit soft, so we upped the gain a little bit. Sounds fine on our end, but let us know in the comments below if there's an issue, if it's too loud. But other than that, um, today I was gonna delve into tax increases, but I kind of wanted to just I started reading through Alderman Facebook pages to see the announcements on the other aldermen. Um, so as discussed yesterday, we had Joe Carey through into the race for Ward 2. There's been no additional mayoral candidates. There's been grumblings that some of them, that there may be one mayoral candidate that might not pass petitions, but it's one of those um, things like that, but everybody gets those when they, like I'm going to run for mayor, and then they, should I run for mayor? And then they, either they, and then they just do it, or they don't do it, and they just pass a petition, So, yesterday, I noticed there was somebody that the administrator for 14760 called fake candidacy. There was a guy that posted on there that he was running for mayor. So if he passes petitions and he makes a formal announcement, not just on Facebook, then we'll see. But so far, this person hasn't reached out to anybody else. So obviously, boom. So obviously, there's a bunch of people that are always speculating that they're going to run. There was a bunch of people that have come to me and told me that they've heard that like 5 more people were going to end up running for mayor. Making it a real free for all, which I doubt that's going to happen. I doubt we're really going to see any more candidates kind of slide in. It's petition passing time, so the gun has gone off at the start line, and so the finish is only a month away to get those petitions passed, and it is work. So if you're really desperate to do it halfway through petition season, which, like I said, petition season is a month. So if you're willing to do it in 2 weeks, which is very difficult to achieve just because, it's 160 signatures, that's you going out on weekends, that's you going out pounding doors in the evenings. You're not going to go in the middle of the day. Unless I'm pretty sure you might be able to pull like your walking list with the category of how much, like the age, like birthdays of people. And I'm not sure. I think that demographic is available for you, so you can pick voters over 70, or whatever. Somebody who might be over 55, who should be home, 65, who should be home, and then this way you can actually go through and you can go through and say, okay, well, this person should be home during the day, but maybe they're, maybe they mail in because they're in a hospital bed or whatever. So it is one of those things. But yeah, you really got to focus on door knocking on nights and weekends, and then you're hoping that people don't have anything going on, that they're home, and people are kind of busy. People are busy in general, so you're really kind of stuck, So, anyways, that said, that's the mayor's race. The update, obviously, Joe Carey's running for Ward 2. He must have posted it yesterday or over the weekend. I know when I hopped on Facebook this morning, his wife had shared his post on a page that he created. So I encourage everybody from Ward 2, or if you're just curious about politics in general, to go through and read each one of these. I found the incumbents ones, just like yesterday. We'll start with Dave. Dave had, all right, Dave Anastasia. So he made an announcement back. He doesn't have an alderman page. He just has his own personal Facebook page. So Dave announced at the end, which last Thursday, the 27th of February, that he was seeking re-election for Ward 7. He thanked his constituents for having trust in him. Short, sweet, pithy, right? And then he shared the Cattaraugus County Democratic Committee, which gave like the who's who of Democratic endorsements, right? They're endorsing Dave. Dave Anastasia for Ward 7, Sonia McCall for Ward 4, cross-endorsing Amy Sherburne for mayor, cross-endorsing Vernon Robinson. Okay, so he is, yes, like I said the other day, he is an independent. So non-affiliated, right? So that means he doesn't have a party, which it is what it is. And then they go into alderman for the town council of Allegheny, superintendents. They're going through all the pretty much the town of Olean, South Valley, Great Valley, just a bunch of different stuff. And then in addition to this post from last Thursday, Dave has a ton of just anti-Trump memes. Like that's like 90% of his Facebook is anti-Trump. It's like, man, post about the city. Like you're feeding the algorithm, baby. Like knock it off, Dave. Like if you don't like the guy, it's like one simple post. People know what your position is. But like if this is going to be your alderman page and your personal page, like you constantly having anti-Trump stuff is going to, I mean, it'll satiate some voters, but it's going to turn off a lot of other people because it makes you think that you just only care about the national. You only, it's if you only had state news on there, you'd only care about the state, right? Like we're talking about local stuff. Like, it is what it is. But that's my little critique of Dave. I know Dave very well. And let's see here. So because I can split both of them up into two, Sonia McCall for Ward 4, as Dave's previous post had mentioned, she got named the city of Olean's Democratic chairman. So she would head up the Democratic committee. And then in Olean is bigger, so we have our own like city Republican committee, and we have our county committee, and then for the Dems they have the same thing. And I can't remember how it worked. There was like one of them was actually a separate entity, and I think that might have been the Dems. I think that they're a separate entity, and we just I can't remember off the top of my head. It's like one of those weird tiny it's a syntax error. Like it's not really important until it is, and then but like nobody really, yeah, you guys don't care. Anyways, she's announcing that, and that pretty much what Dave's post, she summarizes it in like 5 sentences, but also pointing out that she's running for re-election. So again, pithy, short and sweet. I'm gonna close out hers. I'm gonna close out Dave's, and then that's why we saved the longest one for last, which is Vernon Robinson, and he made this post back on the 21st of February, which is, I believe, the Tuesday after. It was first thing in the morning. So yeah, it was the Tuesday after President's Day. So the Tuesday after President's Day. Man, sorry. Yeah, the Tuesday after President's Day, it looks like he made this post, and it's long. I read all of this one. So I like this. Actually, after reading this post, I'm very excited to start getting, incumbents, newcomers, and candidates for alderman and mayor on the show. Getting a one-on-one conversation with them, I think is really going to just add transparency to the race. And this, like, me and Vernon disagree on a lot of different topics, and there's certain things in here that I would critique. That, like, I just from my standpoint, I would disagree with in just how he's going about it. But for the most part, like, he does a very good job in kind of summarizing a lot of different things and potential issues that, even just as an alderman trying to come up with a budget, trying to feather the line between a tax increase and, because nobody wants tax increases, but no, which was going to be my topic for today, which was tax increases, tax rates, things like that for property taxes, which we'll probably dive into a little bit more tomorrow. But yeah, it's taxes, man. But like this is the struggle is real. So I invite everybody to go read that post as well. It was on his alderman page. I believe he posted it because his alderman page didn't have it. It was like a share it was a share onto a state and union, but like it was posted on here. So I'm surprised. But then again, Facebook's algorithms are weird. So how they like post things on his page, we're jumping all over the place from last fall to current day, back to last fall to current day to 2 years ago. Like that's how everything showed up to me, anyways. Um, but it was stated on the State and Union. I know it drove a lot of controversy with constituents and city employees, and you know what I mean. There's like he's it would downsize the city workforce. It is the biggest expense, and which it is the biggest expense. So like people always talk about downsizing it, and they never do. And then obviously like if you're in the group of people that might be downsized, like it's going to stir some controversy. Like, oh, look what they're trying to do. Like, well, yeah, but sometimes people panic because they like to panic. They see something that but it is what it is. But no, I got to give Vernon this though. He's always very transparent. Like he tells you what's on his mind. He is on whether what's on his mind is the right thing, misguided. Do I agree with it? Sometimes not. So but he's telling you how it is. He's telling you how he sees it, right? And I've got to give him that, and transparency. You usually don't see that from too many aldermen. A lot of ones just kind of like, oh, there's a big stir. Let's just keep our heads down and the smoke. Let the smoke settle, and then let the dust settle, and then we can pick up where we left off, and just doing whatever they were doing. And nobody likes to take that kind of abuse, but that's what when you're in public office, you're supposed to be taking abuse from people that disagree with you. You're supposed to be taking it's not always just handshaking and being like, thanks for doing a great job. Like that's not what it is. What it is an angle that you're getting from everybody. People that agree with you, people that disagree with you. You're going to hear more from people that disagree with you, because the people that agree with you, like, they're not going to just call you and be like, I agree with you, thank you. Like, yeah, that happens once in a while, but it's more likely than not, people are motivated to do something because they have disdain for it, or they disagree with it in some way, shape, or form. So here comes the school buses. It is a beautiful morning here in Western New York. So let's see here, and then at the end of his his post here. At the end of his post here, he even talks about it like, I'm open ears. I'm all ears for, let's see here, I can go on to numerous topics. I'm all ears. He's, he wants constructive criticism, like this, for example, like this. And this isn't really tearing it apart. I'm not really delving into too many of the topics. I'm just kind of looking at it, but like he wrote the most, so I'm going to delve into this a little bit. But yeah, no, I mean, let's see. Yeah, so he's looking for constructive criticism. He's also looking for solutions. So like sometimes constructive criticism helps you get to a solution. Sometimes you just have a solution, but sometimes you have to just kind of go back and forth and have that conversation, that debate, so that like a group like the Common Council can come to a solution. You can't just present, this is my path, right? And then you have people like vultures that just pick it apart. Well, if it's a strong enough idea or solution, you should allow it to be let people attempt to disembowel your idea, right? We present ideas to the world so that they may die and we will not. If you just embody an idea and just go out into the world, it's a really bad idea. You get eaten. You know what I mean? Like people will like nail you to it. If you present an idea, people can pick it apart and kill that idea. And if it's strong enough, you can kind of bring it back, nurse it back to health, fix the different things that were broken about it, the weaknesses, tweak them, make it stronger, build on it, and then send it back out into the world. That's why debates are great. That's why conversations are great. So you're going to be able to do stuff like that. Bring it forward, bring forward an idea, have it picked apart, take it back, mend it. Don't just, you're not just bringing back with the same exact idea. You're making tweaks, things like that, and you present it back to the world, and it's stronger and it's less likely to be pulled apart. And that's how ideas like can live on. And then at some point you can embody an idea as a belief or as a strongly suited idea that you can kind of wear around your neck and be able to take criticism for it and not be killed, right? That's the idea. That's the idea behind ideas, right? So, but if you start looking at, I believe it was like T.H. White, I think, wrote you present your ideas to the world so that they will die and you will not. So, but constructive criticism, he's inviting that in the bottom of his excerpt here, which is a very long excerpt. But I do encourage everybody to read Joe Carey's from Ward 2, Sonia McCall's posts, read their pages, Dave Anastasia's from Ward 7, and Vernon's from Ward 6. But if you start looking through, so the one thing I did want to talk about here before I have to go for the day is, and leave you into this abyss without my soothing voice, is he talks about CHIP funding. It was just one of like a little point of contention, and I think a lot of people have an issue with CHIP funding and street investment and things like that. And this is one of the things that the council has gone down a road about for years and just never if you have a roof, right, at your house, and you know, a roof should be good for 25 years, and every year you let it, you have 10 years left of your roof, right? Like, okay, I have 10 years left of my roof. I really should have been saving, taking the cost of a roof with inflation over 25 years and done your planning, right? So nobody ever plans, right? Nobody ever plans, right? Like how many of you at home think about the roof on your house and then you say, hey, I'm going to take my roof. It cost me $10,000 for this roof to be completely torn off and replaced. I am going to take the cost of that roof, multiply it by 1.5%, add a percentage every year, increase it. So you would multiply the non-percentage multiplier would be 1.015, and then that would give you your 1.5% increase on inflation every single year. So then you would multiply that, right, or multiply that by the power of 25. Is that and I'm going to yell at for not being a good mathematician here. But so anyways, you're going to for the simple math, for us simpletons, you're going to multiply that 1 point, and then you're going to do it again and again and again and again, and you're going to compound that 1.5% increase every year, because after year one, you're going to have that number, and then it's going to increase by another 1.5%. And so, but like on the total of the previous year's increase. So then you say, okay, here's my total after 25 years, and now I need to divide that number by 25. And that'll give you a rough guesstimate on how much you should be saving every year for your roof. I used to get into arguments with my father on this because he would say, well, you know, when your roof comes up, you just replace it. It's like, what have you been saving? Where's the money coming from? Like, the roofs don't just fall out of the sky. If they fell out of the sky, you have to worry about replacing your roof more often because we'd be hit by other roofs. So I always had a rule of thumb is every apartment unit or every home, you should be banking a minimum of $250 a month just for general maintenance and repairs. And it's actually probably a lot larger than that, but that's a good starting point. And people don't really think about that. But okay, so your roofs, for example, are very similar to that, right? So you okay, now you have every year you should be putting this money aside. Well, so what New York State realized was a lot of state roads, right? Like, so through Olean, we have, I believe it's New York State Route 16 and New York State 417, which 16 might be a county road, but I'm pretty sure every time I look it up, it always says NYS RT 16. So Route 16 and Route 417 go through Olean, right? And so for a percentage of DOT usually replaces certain things on the outskirts of the city, like they'll deal with the underpass, or we can go to the railroad for the Army Corps of Engineers to fix bridges here and there. But inside the city, if it's a state route, they typically don't touch it. And so what they anticipate is, and this is how every DPW director that sat in front of me when I was on the Common Council would kind of explain it, and even to this day, even the current ones will not argue with me on this point. I bring it up to them, this is how I understand CHIP funding. And they're like, that's how the state describes it. And we've had people from the state come in and talk to Alderman and talk to us and give us presentations on different things. And over the years, this is the one thing that and everyone always is like, oh, well, that's not how, we only get so much for CHIPS funding. and CHIPS funding, if for those of you who don't know, CHIPS funding is that state contribution towards your municipality. So how they determine what your CHIPS funding is they say, hey, we're going to take 15% of what your budget should be for all the roads. So they take all the roads in your municipality and they say, this is how much, if you have 20 years on a road, if you have 20 years on a road, before you have to completely replace it, how many miles of road, and then putting it in a 20-year cycle and saying, okay, well, we're dividing by 20, and then this is how much each year you should be putting towards road infrastructure or road replacement or whatever. And I say infrastructure, it's road infrastructure, not like not the infrastructure of piping under the roads, just your roads in general. This is how much you should be replacing every single year's 1/20th of all the miles of all years. And so they say, okay, on average, our state roads that run through your municipality, your township, whatever, is 15% of your roads. So what they do is they give you CHIPS funding, which is supposed to be 15% of what you're supposed to spend on roads. So for example, Olean, if I remember correctly, when I was on the council, it was like $432,000. $432,000 divided by 0.15. The city should be spending $2.88 million according to how the state's logic works on our roads, which is probably not too far off. And the state's given us 15% for their share of roads that are in our community. So that, like, therein lies the problem, is that, like, ever since I was on the council, you know what our street funding budget was? $432,000. It was exactly CHIP funding. We would spend exactly the number of dollars on streets as we got in CHIPS. And, like, every so often we'd spend a little bit more, but if you didn't spend your CHIPS funding, they wouldn't give it to you the next year. So you spent all of it. But you're supposed to spend all of it. You're supposed to spend $2.8 million, almost $2.9 million on roads just in our little city. Well, if you have to do that, taxes are going to have to go up, and we can go down a whole rabbit hole on that one. But, like, he brings up the CHIPS funding and how, like, the state hasn't increased it. It's like, well, yeah, but I mean, even if the state increases it, here's something to think about. If the state increases it, that just means that your bigger number is going to increase. So if they increased it from 432,000 to, which I think he says is like the early 2000s, the same number as early 2000s. Let's say it's 575,000 now. Not times, divided by 0.15, making it 15%. Now all of a sudden you're 3.8. You've almost gone up $1 million. You've gone up just under $1 million in street funding, because and that would compensate for inflation. That would make perfect sense. But it's one of those, like, what are you gonna do? Like, we're already not saving for that roof, right? Like, we're already like, well, I put $100 a month at the roof. Well, let's say your roof, I put $50, $25 a month at my roof. It's like, well, but you really needed to be putting 200. Like, you're already only doing 15% of what it is. And then when you pass the buck down the road, year after year after year, because nobody wants to raise taxes, you get into this weird rabbit hole of what you need. Like, oh, now all of a sudden we have, we got, like, you guys are gonna yell at me because I don't know how many miles of road. I like, here and there people throw it at me and it just doesn't stick. Like, it could be 20 miles of road. It could be 200 miles of road. Well, anyways, if you have so many miles of road and you're supposed to be replacing it every year and you're only putting 15% of it in, you're only getting 15% of the job done, eventually the actual expiration date on some of these roads come due, and then you have to, like, borrow money just to do that road, which you should have been saving for the whole time. But because you're not increasing taxes, you're not prepared to do it. So then you have to increase taxes just to cover debt service, just to buy groceries. As a former DPW director used to say, we need to focus on, before we go and, like, pay for splash park tickets, pay for amusement park tickets. Before we start doing all these other things that are luxuries, we need to be buying groceries, and we need to be focusing on paying for groceries. And that's, and roads are groceries. Roads are groceries. So, like, putting them on there. I know he's talking about eliminating vehicle assets that the city has, and it's like, well, I mean, if we eliminate some, but we still have to get a proper maintenance budget for some of them, and not a maintenance budget per se, but, like, there are definitely things of contention where, like, if you're supposed to replace a vehicle, every 7 years, and that's the issue. Like when you're getting a car loan, right? You get a car loan and people tell you, oh, well, I need, um, you don't want to get a car loan over 5 years. You don't want to get a car loan over 5 years because by the time you hit year five, you're paying off a loan for a vehicle that's worth well less than that. And by year seven, I mean, some people will push their cars to 15 years or whatever, but the average life expectancy of a car is between 5 and 10 years before the person removes it and gets rid of it. And so for a municipality, you have to take that large corporation approach and be eliminating vehicles every 7 years. Just sending them off to auction, getting the biggest bang for your buck, hitting that bell curve, that peak, and then reinvesting that money to offset the cost of a new vehicle. And so there's all these little things that happen that I don't think are completely comprehended, and I don't expect like every member of a common council to do this, but this is where like you get into the weeds in municipalities, and then it's like, wow, we have all this extra money this year. It's like you really should then dump it into different little pots for saving money for next year. So I will yeah. Oh man, there's a lot to comprehend here. So, but no, and I could probably spend like 6 hours like delving into all the little topics he just broaches in his post, which I mean that's why I appreciate Alderman coming forward and bringing up these concerns, because like I've been there, man. I was an alderman for 5 years. I've been a resident of the city for almost 20 years now. No, well, I moved here in over 20 years now. I've been a resident of the city for over 20 years. And so that poses that poses issues. It doesn't pose issues that I've been a resident for 20 years, but it poses issues when you have to start coming up with these different when you have to start looking at these different topics, and you need to bring in people that are knowledgeable. I'm not telling them to bring me in, but I'm just saying like these conversations need to be had, and I think most people don't understand them, or most people don't understand that they even exist and how to approach them. So that said, guys, it is time for me to go finish, start helping my kids get ready for school, making sure that everything's all set with that. But we appreciate you guys listening. Thanks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we will catch you guys tomorrow on Life22.